everybody to our next Q&A session with Dr. Françoise Wilhelmi de Toledo. Hello again, Françoise, and thank you once again for taking the time.
Hello, Lisa. It's a pleasure.
Françoise, you're heading the research department of the Buchinger-Wilhelmi clinics at Lake Constance, Germany and Marbella, Spain. And I know you just published 2 brand new, super interesting new studies in June 2020. Could you quickly give us an update about what they are?
Yes, the first one is a review in Annals of Medicine, and it's a sort of overview of the brand new nutritional strategies focused on fasting and calorie restriction, but especially on long-term fasting, which is a fasting practice during 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, always followed by a period of slow food reintroduction under medical supervision in a special place with big staff and a multidisciplinary concept. And the second one is on oxidative stress that diminishes during the fasting, where at the same time the antioxidant capacity of the body is enhanced during a long-term fasting of 10 days. We have made that in a group of 109 persons.
That sounds super interesting, and we are anyway planning to have separate videos on this. Once they are ready, I will link them in this video and put the links in the description as well. So thanks for quickly talking about this, but the topics today are different ones because we received again many questions about fasting, and today it's especially about hunger and habits. So the first question is, and I know from our big study that was published last year with more than 1,400 participants, that the vast majority of the participants don't even feel hunger at all. I think it's above 90%. Can you please let the people watching this video know how they can avoid being hungry during fasting?
Again, we talk about long-term fasting, 5 days, 10 days, 15, 20 days or more under supervision away from home. And I can tell you just that during that time, after 1 or 2 days where you still are resetting your inner clock, you don't feel hunger anymore. Why? Because you are in ketosis. This means that you burn your fat, and the derivatives are metabolites, like we say. Fats are transformed partially in ketone bodies, and these ketone bodies are acidic. And this metabolic situation of ketosis takes the hunger feeling away. You come in a feeling which is a very special feeling that you have only in fasting, and maybe when you were in the womb of your mother, because it's not a satiety feeling either. It's just something in between. You're not hungry at all, but you don't feel full and satiated. So this is a very special state of the fasting, which the people already find extraordinary. They say, well, I can't believe it. I never thought, I'm not eating since 3 days and I don't feel hungry again at all. And why? It's just because your cells, your body cells are nourished by your own fat. So the system gives the signal, don't worry, we don't miss anything. So this is the situation of fasting. If you do a long-term fasting, at least of 3 days or 4 or 5, because normally you need these 3 days to come to the absence of hunger. And if you do intermittent fasting, then it's maybe the moment to learn to live with a slight feeling of hunger. You know, hunger in our body, in humans and animals, is associated in our brain with danger, because the problem of humanity was never to have too much, and the problem of the animal living free. The problem was always to starve, not having enough, and die from not having enough food. So though our system is so poor, but when you are making, for instance, an intermittent fasting and you start feeling a little bit of hunger, you should say, wow, that's nice. This is a feeling that my body is changing metabolism. So I start autophagy, I start the self-cleaning mechanisms, and I reset I make a little reset of my system. And I can stand it for some times. When it comes to be acute, then you eat when you have intermittent fasting. You should never do an intermittent fasting leaving you so hungry during 2 or 3 hours, because the risk is that you overeat then. You have to find the right intervals and the right meal size so that you can come with having 1 or 2 hours to live with a little hunger feeling and to positive it. I'm not saying you should get turned to be anorectic, but positiving a little, letting the hunger feeling grow in intensity until you're nicely hungry, not over that point. When you do long-term fasting, this feeling of hunger will disappear. And sometimes it will come back. It's very strange. Of course, if you smell something, you go to the city and you smell something, or you read a magazine and you will notice food is pictured at every page. So you are stimulated, or someone tells you his or her last recipe. All that are stimulation that can give you a sort of feeling you're hungry, or you have a need or an urge for eating something. And this is psychological more than physical, because your body is nourished by your own fat and your only recycled proteins and some sugar you built out of the fat, the glycerol of the fat, and also from lactate and other precursors of the glucose. So you can have a sort of urge or craving during the fasting, because you are accustomed, and then you lack pleasure. It's not the nutritive aspect of food you are missing in these cravings, but food has an incredible soothing effect, also psychologically. For a certain time, you have you get positive feelings, like a sort of a little firework in your brain, and so you forget about maybe your depressed mood for a short period. It's a drug effect, like the strong drugs, and so you get addictive to that. So during the fasting, this can happen, and this is the wonderful moment to ask yourself, what do I really lack? What is my emotional need? Maybe I need to be with people. I need a good talk. Maybe I need to be touched, loved. I need to belong to the community. And this is what is wonderful in the fasting done with religious purposes, is that you fast in a group, and the group has rituals and rules and habits. And like you see the Ramadan, for instance, this is a good example of it's called time-restricted eating or intermittent fasting, where the people are doing that very much together, and also linked to a spiritual dimension, of course. So you can really ask yourself, what could give me some pleasure, which can let me forget that I feel like eating a cake, a brownie, or a bread and butter and cheese, or a steak, or I don't know what all the people are fantasizing during the fasting. So, the topic of hunger is extremely important, because in my opinion, if you want to keep a normal weight, if you want to follow a more healthy diet, you should sozusagen tame your hunger and satiety feeling. Reset this rhythm in your body, Eat when you're hungry, sometimes play with the hunger, let it a bit deepen, and then eat. And the pleasure of eating is much bigger when you are hungry. So this is the secret. When you go back to food, you will enjoy it much more than you would have eaten ad libitum, and you would have got obese, and maybe you cannot really taste the things anymore. So hunger, and then when you are hungry and you go and you have a meal, also sometimes what you would like to eat. And this is also a sort of selective process, which is interesting, and it's very helpful. And then you notice the satiety better. When you're full, when it's enough quantity, you feel also the satiation better. Satiation is the satiety for a specific thing. For instance, you eat a wonderful salad, and after a while, you don't want this salad anymore because it's enough of this salad, but you're still hungry. So you are satiated for salad, but you go on having hunger for the rest. And then this is the whole art of the gastronomy, is to renew permanently your appetite of food. And so you dominate your instinct through listening to hunger and listening to satiety. And this is the best thing to re-educate your eating behavior without having to follow dogma rules or do's and don'ts, but from yourself, because it makes you much more fun to eat when you are hungry and the right things, and stop when you are satiated, because you can then work, you have. So we are for positive reinforcement when you want to change your lifestyle, which is the next question I anticipate. The positive reinforcement means you have experienced, it was wonderful to eat when I was hungry and to stop when I was satiated. So this is what I want to have more often. How can I do that? And you can play with intermittent fasting when you go to a wonderful dinner and you have a large meal and you exaggerate because it's so beautiful, the company is so nice. Then you just say, okay, I have now 16 hours where I don't eat anymore. And sometimes, in my case, because I'm not accustomed to make excesses, so sometimes I don't eat during 24 hours, just to reset my system, to allow the autophagy to make the cleaning, and then to reanimate the hunger feeling. And it's like this for all the other things. What is necessary to change and have more healthy live habits is to do more exercise, or do regular exercise according to your capacity. During a fast, the inflammation diminishes. So you can walk better, you can maybe do some yoga, you can do stretching exercises, you can do a lot of things, and you enjoy them. You learn to enjoy exercise. So when you go back home, it's not saying, oh my God, I have to do it because of my heart, because of this and that, but how can I go on with this pleasure of moving, a pleasure of feeling my body, of sweating and of having a good shower afterward. This extraordinary, and the exercise is enhancing the mood. So all that you want to keep. And this is good after the fasting. First, you are motivated, and then you have to find the right quantity, and maybe something not far away from home, where you have a lot of people who can really tell you how to find the right quantity and quality of exercise. So you can also reset your sleep and alertness time. This is another rhythm which is going to lead you to a more healthy life, because we made a lot of mistakes when you are overworked, exhausted, you were not rested. Then we feel like having sweet food, like caffeine beverages, like maybe being overstimulating by all other things, shopping, sex, meeting people to have very gastronomic, exaggerated meals, and all this stuff will diminish if you feel rested. You start the day with the feeling, hey, that's nice, I look forward for my breakfast and I have a sort of good energy. So in my opinion, the last point, which belongs to a healthy lifestyle, is what we could sum up as emotional balance. And this means to be balanced and to be happy. I mean, not in a stupid way, but just be happy with what you have, to be thankful for life in its fullness. And this means that you have not only to consider the work, the things you have to do, but also the art, nature, time for friends, social relationships, love, beauty, and of course, giving your life a spiritual dimension. Having masters, having maybe a community, a religious community you belong to, which you can really regularly go inside of you and say, okay, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I existing? What am I going what am I doing for the others? How can I transmit this feeling of thankfulness, of life in its fullness that I have? And this is the schools of wisdom. This is the topics of religion. How can I love the other people, of myself, and just being in balance with my life and lifestyle is not all. You can change your lifestyle and still don't have this dimension, but this is a good way toward this dimension, because it requires that you stop compulsive behaviors like drinking alcohol, like too much coffee, like, you know, all the addictive things, smoking, and all that is making an obstacle toward consciousness enhancement and toward really living a life of conscience. So you have to stop them, like I said before, to doing the positive reinforcement, and then have a full dimension of spirituality in your life. And this is how I wish that you are going to use fasting as a tool to go to this final purpose.
I can absolutely confirm what you just said. When I was the first time fasting in the clinic, it was the first time that I started to think about what I really need, and not just do because the teacher, society, advertising, or whatever told me to do, like having 3 meals a day, because that is what I think majority of people in Western country are grown up with, like breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Simply, I never felt like having breakfast. And after fasting, I somehow had the first time really it was like reassuring me that I was on the right track, because I just didn't feel like. And I think the body is super intelligent and it always knows the answer. And so to me, it was an extremely strong tool that gave me self-confidence back and made me somehow like being more in the driving seat of my life. Just whenever I have the feeling something's missing, I'm not going to eat or I'm not going to drink alcohol or whatever, but simply try to figure out what I really need right now. And that is not only about food, but also, like you said, about friendships, or about taking time for myself and doing yoga practice and stuff like that. So I think people tend to think fasting is about losing weight in the first place, but it's so much more than this. And I hope everybody understood from what you just said, that it can have an impact on your entire life.
And, the first step can be just losing weight or improving a disease or a symptom. But of course, you can deepen it until you notice it's a tool of freedom, where you don't depend on external signals and on all the what you have been educated to think, all this brainwashing. You can globalize it like this, and you go back to listening to what is necessary for you, for the development of your skills, of your abilities, of what the purpose of your life finally, and your consciousness. So it's much more, like you say, it's much more than just a physical aspect. And long-term fasting reveals the other dimensions better than if you do only intermittent fasting, although intermittent fasting gives you the first glimpse of what it could be. So intermittent fasting and long-term fasting are extraordinarily coherent and synergistic. They are complementary. So train in your everyday life, making a sort of intermittent fasting, letting long pauses. And then when you have time, you take the time, and on the right moment, in the right setting, with a good guidance, do the long-term fasting.
Absolutely. Also, another statement popped up when you were speaking about lifestyle changes, and this is what our 𝗵𝗂𝗏𝗏𝗄 is always teaching in the cooking classes to our patients. Don't try to do everything perfect in like one step, but take it step by step. And I think that is also what we are trying to give our patients with them when they're leaving for home, that if you want to have sustainable lifestyle changes, it's not about going home and trying to change everything at once, but really like having 3 smaller goals that are easy to implement in your daily life, and then take it from there, and just having like the small successes, but really having the feeling that you're in the driving seat, changing small things and having the success and having the good feeling, and then take it from there, additional small steps. Is that something that you could also recommend, or maybe having additional tips on like more a technique that people can apply at home?
It's a vast topic, but it's good to summarize it in saying you go back to the driving seat of your own life. So I would like to conclude with that. And then in other films, we can go specifically on exercise, on the eating behavior, food, and emotional balance and spirituality. This has been now, it was an overview, and I think it's enough. Just make your homework now, and know that when you have done regularly intermittent fasting, you can go for what I call the real thing, which would be a longer fast.
Absolutely. So in case you're interested in specific topics that you would like us to talk about, then please just comment below the video, and we will then take it up and produce another one. The last question we received for today, I think, is a super short one. You can answer most likely in a couple of sentences. The question is if people are allowed to donate blood during fasting.
Normally, fasting is not a period where you are going to donate blood, because you need to make a balance, but in some cases of very high blood pressure, or in some diseases where you have too much iron, for instance, this is therapeutically, can it be indicated. It doesn't mean that if you have an emergency and you should give your blood, it's not possible. Most of the young people who are strong will stand it, but you add an effort of resynthesis in a system which is already eliminating the old elements of the blood, the whole cells of the blood, in order to reintroduce them, rejuvenate them, turning the stem cells and turning on the new synthesis of new cells after the fasting. So it is possible, but it's not recommended, and only some cases is therapeutical. In the contrary, maybe 3 or 4 months after fasting, or 2 months after fasting, when your blood is younger, because you have eliminated old cells and rejuvenated the new ones, then you can give probably a blood of much better quality. So think about it.
And I think if people consider donating blood during fasting anyway, everybody should speak to their doctors, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Françoise. Those were the questions for today. As always, in case you're having additional questions, please just comment below this video, and we will collect some of them and produce a new episode for you. Thank you, Françoise. I wish you a great day, and see everybody next time.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, everybody, and see you soon.